Welcome to the Love Means Business podcast. On this show, we celebrate love as the beautiful, sometimes dangerous, and always powerful force that it is. I'm your host, Emily Green, an agency founder, business consultant, professional speaker, mom, wife, and survivor of toxic love. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, on each episode, we will explore true stories of dark love and how sometimes our personal struggles can lead to our greatest professional passions. Thank you to episode 1 sponsor, Dye Kulik. Dye Kulik is a Charlotte, North Carolina law firm representing businesses in North Carolina, South Carolina, Massachusetts, and Michigan of all sizes across diverse industries, offering strategic, growth-focused legal support. The firm is rooted in the idea that being a responsible business means acting with purpose and supporting organizations and people doing the good in our community. As a proud supporter of the Love Means Business podcast, they see love, like empathy, affecting every aspect of creating a healthy business, and that love can, if used for good, be transformational to company cultures and teams. Visit dyekulik.com for more information and follow them on Instagram and LinkedIn at dyekulik. Mention the Love Means Business podcast for a complimentary consultation for your business. Welcome to the first episode of Love Means Business. I'm excited to have Tiffany Vandemark joining me today. Thank you for being here.
You're so welcome.
Tiffany is a renowned figure known for her motivational and inspiring message, particularly in the arena of personal growth and development. She is a multifaceted powerhouse who can call herself a personal brand coach, speaker, and author, with her most notable work being her memoir, Inside the Ring, which we have right here, and I loved. It was awesome. Her journey into personal branding was fueled by her own experience surviving a highly publicized celebrity marriage and divorce, which left her feeling out of touch with who she was and what she wanted for her life. It took her several years to start over, discover, and cultivate her own personal and professional brand, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is that full journey. So let's go ahead and dive right in.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is going to be a journey. Okay, in your book, Inside the Ring, you talk about defining moments. One of those being the first time you met Ric Flair, and the other when you started training him. Tell me about the first time you guys met, and then how you ended up becoming a trainer.
So this is probably one of my funnest parts about talking about Rick.
The beginning.
Right, the beginning. I owned a personal training company, and at the time, I was doing national fitness competitions. And so I worked out at the Gold's Gym that he owned. My sister was the receptionist there.
Okay.
So I remember walking in, and this older, bleach blonde, I don't even know.
Can't miss it, right?
Right. was holding court at the juice bar. But keep in mind, I know nothing about wrestling. I knew nothing about Rick. And I walked in and he looks me up and down and he was like, "Hey, you." And I was like, "Hey, no." And so
it was not love at first sight.
I know. I was like, "What is this not doing?" No, not at all.
So you guys met and then you started training. So how did that kind of?
So that was a little bit further down. I owned a personal training company at here in Charlotte, Harris Y, and he owned a bunch of Gold's Gyms. I worked out at his gym so that I didn't have to be nice and all that.
Yeah.
But their Gold's Gyms were looking for the best trainers and the best aerobic instructors in town. And he heard that my training company was the best. So his management team, we sat down and had lunch one day. And he asked what it would take for me to come on board at the Gold's Gyms. And I said, well, all your trainers have to go because all of mine have degrees or...
Yeah, it's got to be your way if you want this. Yeah.
And then he was like, "That's fine, but who's going to train?" And I said, "Starting with yours. He's the worst." And he goes, who's going to
That was ballsy.
Oh, right. I was
that
like,
was ballsy.
no. I've been watching this whole thing go down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no. And I said, he goes, well, who's going to train me? And I said, I am. And he goes, I've never been trained by a girl. And I was like, bring it on.
Oh, gosh. And if you're like me, which I know you are, I would have been like, oh, challenge accepted.
Yeah. At the time, I was training athletes, and I was like, oh, no, this is on. And he had really gotten out of shape. He had semi-retired and really let himself go. So he was trying to get back in shape and sign a new contract with WWE or WWF at the time.
It's an exciting moment, though. I mean, I'm sure like that for you, too. You saw like that was such a huge opportunity for your career, and to be able to do that with all those gyms.
Absolutely.
With your team, too, to bring your team into that, that's huge for business.
Super excited about it, and quite honestly, really nervous, too. I know Rick can be a little intimidating.
I could definitely see that. I can see that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So if everything was bad, it would be so easy to know when to walk away from toxic love. But I know that's just never the case. Love is a dichotomy. We know this. You showcase that so well in your book. And with many of the relationships you chronicle, especially though the one that you had with Rick. As your relationship progressed, what were some of the red and green flags? So, I mean, there's red, obviously, but there's green, too, or you would have just left immediately.
Wow. I love this question because, Emily, full disclosure, there was way more red flags than green. And I always tell people now, especially younger women, I don't paint the red flags green anymore.
Okay.
Because I did. Yeah. If you really asked me that question, there were so many red flags, but I didn't see them. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with him. I wanted to save him. And man, as crazy as it was, he was Prince Charming. I mean, he was so adoring to me emotionally. Just, I was it. I was the one, he called it, which now I know.
That's intoxicating, too.
It's so intoxicating.
Yeah.
And there was gifts, and there was... But more importantly, he helped me let me get to know him. Yeah. And I just fell in love with him. But the green flags were those, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never felt this way. I've never been treated this way. But oh boy, there was plenty of red flags.
I feel like when I was reading your book, when I was like reading some of the passages, when you first started getting to know him and training him and all of that, his vulnerability was kind of one of the things that really got you. Is that wrong to say, or?
No, that's absolutely right to say. I think, Rick tried everything. Yeah. Who he was, I didn't care. Mm-hmm. The gifts, I didn't care. Yeah. So the second, what I thought he was doing is letting me know Richard Morgan Flair.
Yeah, who he really is.
He really is. And telling me about how he was put up for adoption when he was young, and just really being vulnerable with me. And that made me really endearing to him, and trust him enough to share personal, intimate details of my life with him.
Right. Yeah, that when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, I get it. I could see you did a really good job of showing kind of that process of how you would fall in love with him, because that is endearing. That does make you be like, oh, he overcame so much. And then you kind of bond, because then you share your trauma, and it's like the trauma.
Yeah, but it wasn't at first. I mean, this wasn't, he was married at the time, and just all the rumors and everything about him were true. And all the crazy shenanigans. So this wasn't, hey, I first started training him and we fell in love. I trained him. He lost 30 pounds, 10% body fat, ran a 7-minute mile on his 50th birthday. He was, and then gave me all the credit. And little by little that year, just broke my walls down. Yeah. And so trust it wasn't overnight.
And I think that's important to note, because I don't think people always realize that sometimes it is in stages. Because again, I feel like if it was completely abrupt or it was completely one-sided, it would be a lot easier to spot and run away.
Yeah, and I don't think that ever happens. I don't think you automatically go, that guy is going to do that.
I mean, if you do and stay, then that's a whole other issue.
Right.
That's true. Very true. So one of the quotes from your book that really hit me was, "I never knew falling in love would cost so much." Tell me a little bit about what those words mean to you today and what your relationship with Rick and others that you talk about, especially him, cost you.
Wow, that's a really great question. I feel like it cost me a little bit of my soul. Staying, my confidence, my soul. I think there was places. So the abuse was not just physical; it was emotional more than anything. I think I love to talk about how bruises are not just black and blue. But Rick knew every piece of my vulnerability. He knew everything about me. And I have never trusted anyone since. And I've been in years of therapy.
Yeah.
It's cost me a lot in relationships. I continue to work on that. So I think it cost it, a little piece of my heart, a little piece of my soul, building my confidence back. I think those are the things I lost, not to mention the financial piece of it is a whole other conversation.
Yeah. That trust piece, though, that's interesting that you bring that up, because I feel like that's really one of the hardest things to ever get back once someone you love, like truly love, has broken that. And it's hard to trust other people, but even trust yourself. Because it's like, if I did this, I chose this person, I did this, how do I know that I won't do it again? And I understand that because I've definitely been there. But you've done so many amazing things. So like, obviously, if I was you, I'd trust myself. If I was you. But what are some things you've done to try to build trust, at least for yourself?
Therapy. Therapy and prayer and getting back to me. I think trusting myself has taken me a long time. I do trust myself now. I believe in myself. I love myself, but that took years of people supporting me, of therapy, of God protecting me, and letting people in, and really surrounding myself with a tribe of women and men that have helped me grow and helped me to continue to build that trust. But I think it's something people always ask me, is it something you ever forget? No, it's not. It's part of who I am. It's part of the scars that have built my character. But it has taken years to trust me again. And I think that's more important than trusting anyone else. I have to trust me.
Totally. Yeah. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your soul there. When love takes a dark turn, it can truly feel paralyzing. You mentioned how hard it is to walk away from those who break you. And I thought that was really powerful that you put it that way. I understand that feeling. Many listening and watching, I'm sure, are going to be like, yeah, I get that too. So walk me through when you finally decided to leave. What was your breaking point? And then how did you leave?
That makes me tear up.
Kleenex. It's lucky that.
See, it still causes me some pain. I think, especially when I'm in a position where I'm talking about it in such a way and with trust with you. So thank you for this safe space.
Yes, I want you to feel comfortable. Say whatever you do or don't want to say. Just don't do anything you're not comfortable with.
Thank you. I feel that way. I think I remember looking in the mirror one day, and I think there's so many women I talk to, and I think looking in the mirror, putting on my mascara one day. Because you either look in the mirror when you're putting on your mascara, your lip gloss, or your teeth, brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's me. I'm weird. But it was putting on my mascara one day. And I remember looking in my eyes and not recognizing the woman that was looking back at me. And I think that's the day I felt like I was so broken and there's no way to come back up. Mm-hmm. I just felt like I was at a new low.
Yeah.
And I was preparing Rick for WrestleMania in the Hall of Fame, and he was supposed to be retiring. And I remember walking out, I think this is the way I started my book. I remember walking out with these thousands and thousands of people in the arena and standing front row with his kids and watching him walk down the long aisle.
Yeah.
And I remember when he got in the ring, I was like, that's it. He's inside the ring and he's safe.
Yeah.
And now I have to save me. And that's the day I knew that I was going to do whatever it took to leave.
It's okay. So I want to circle back to like you actually leaving, like how that happened. But you said something that I think is interesting. You said you knew he was safe. And then that's when you could take care of yourself. That's really interesting that you said it like that. I feel like that shows how you felt like it was your responsibility to take care of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that happens to a lot of us who end up in relationships that we should not be in, that are bad for us, but we feel like we're the caretaker and we feel guilty definitely feel guilty if we leave.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to point that out because that shows even now you're being a loving, caring person. And that's pretty remarkable, honestly, with everything you've been with.
I just remember watching him walk in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like, that's who he is.
Yeah.
He's 50 something years old.
Yeah.
He's gotten this far and I need to save me because it was killing me inside.
So you decided then that was probably another defining moment really, where you're like, I've got to get out no matter what. So then what did you do? What are the steps you took to leave and get out?
So I ended up talking to an attorney. I remember telling people when I knew I was going to leave, I started telling my family because you don't tell anybody. So
yeah,
people knew it was crazy, but it's just because it was Ric Flair. And but they didn't know how crazy it was. I ended up calling some of his work associates and letting them know that this was an abusive relationship. I told my pastor.
Yeah.
And then I told my mom.
Was that the hardest, telling your mom?
Yes, but I don't know about you. When you tell your mama, your southern mama something, you just made it real.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I told her, there was no going back.
Yeah.
And I think that was the hardest part for me. But that was when you start telling people, it's when you know.
Yeah.
Because I needed it. I needed help and I couldn't do this on my own and I needed to get out.
Yeah. But I think sometimes it's good if you tell that person that there's no going back, because then you can't. That it almost like pushes you, like you're a personal trainer. You've pushed people. You needed almost that thing to push you.
I did.
So that you wouldn't go back.
I did.
But thank you for sharing that. I know it's probably one of those things, no matter when you talk about it, no matter how many years, it's still gonna like hit you. But I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this podcast is all about showing love in all of its facets: the good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Thank you. We've looked into the darker side of your love story and how you got out. And now we want to kind of look at some of the other stuff. In your book, you also mentioned some powerful lessons you learned from your time with Rick. The first one I wanted to touch on was around your time training him. Did you really do 500 squats a day? Oh my gosh. Is that true? Did you really do that every day?
We sure did. We did we started our workout with 500 squats every single day.
Oh my gosh. So ever since I read that in the book, I'm not joking. I'll do like 50 squats and I'm like, that took me forever. How did you do that?
So we started out, like, Rick is a beast. He was such an athlete, my favorite client, that he would do anything. And just his work ethic was crazy. But he had this thing that he had done his whole wrestling career. It was sit-ups, push-ups, and squats.
Okay.
And so I was an athlete too. I was competing. So
Yeah.
like, bring it up. I'll warm up with you. So the first time I did it, I was like, holy Moses. And it took us a little bit longer. Like we'd rest after 50 and after 100. And, but then we got to where we did 500 squats in less than 10 minutes. It was crazy. And it was like nothing.
That's incredible. Well, you've motivated me. I'm trying to squat more now. So tell me, like, what are some of the lessons or things that you took away from your time training him?
Man, like I said, he was my favorite client. And it's funny, after years, I really looked to, we had some good times, but training him, it just showed me that you could do anything. He was in his 50s, had gotten himself out of shape. I mean, there was times we were doing HIIT exercises or Tabatas on the treadmill, and he would keep telling me to push it faster, push it faster, push it faster. And I literally thought he was going to have a heart attack and die.
Yeah.
But he never did. And I would be watching his blood pressure and his heart rate, and he would be like, keep pushing. And he just kept pushing because he wanted to get back in and be the man again. And I watched him transform his whole body to do just that.
Yeah. It sounds like he didn't let like physical pain or discomfort at all really stop him.
Yeah.
He just pushed through whatever.
Pushed through. He was a champ.
Push through feelings, push through anything, and just everything. Blows through it all.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. The second thing that I personally loved when I was reading your book, that I just thought was so powerful, was you saying that your safety and security would never come from a relationship. That is so empowering, and I feel like that's something like every woman, man, whatever, should say to themselves, because that's so true. So talk to me about that mindset and how that's impacted your future endeavors and relationships.
I love that question because, even in my book, I talk about my parents got divorced when I was very young, and I did not have a relationship with my father till when I turned 30. And now it's a gift to have him in my life. And so I had abandonment issues and all kinds of other things. So the male relationships in my life were either father figures or they were going to take care of me. And I started lifting weights and doing fitness competitions because I was going to take care of myself, that I was going to be so strong that no one could hurt me. But that didn't happen. And I let my relationships define me. It was funny. Some of the relationships, I've dated big muscular men that I felt safe with, but who was going to protect me from them?
Yeah.
And what Rick helped me be me. He helped me discover who I am. He helped me to be strong in any situation. And what I have found out is that inner strength, that confidence, that safety, that security can only come from within. And that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, because there's so much strength inside of us that we have no idea that's there.
That hits me. That one hits me really hard because I just feel like I was similar to you in that I feel like I was almost searching to find my strength with other people or whatever. And it was always with me, but it just took a really long time to figure that out. And I feel like the confidence part for me came when I did that. And sometimes if I could go back in time, if I could, that's like the one thing I wish that I could tell my younger self. I don't have really many regrets, but I wish I could just be like, you're okay. You're okay by yourself. You don't need to try to find like someone else to make yourself feel like
yes,
strong.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also like muscular men, so I don't think that has to
That
go
hasn't
away.
changed. No.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's all good. um, so the last and honestly one of the most powerful lessons I felt like was in your book was where you say my mess would turn into my message. So that's quite the spin. That's quite the life spin. And I love that. Not just because I was in PR for so long, but I love that. How have you taken that mess or heartbreak from your relationship with him and use that to fuel your professional passions now?
Well, that's my, the things I could go back and I wouldn't change anything. I don't have any regrets like you.
Yeah.
Every relationship I've been in has helped me be me. And you change your story, you change your life. We have the ability to change our story. I wrote my book so that other women can know that there's life on the other side. That even in the mess, there isn't a life on the other side. And I decided to take the things that Rick taught me, that all of my relationships have taught me, and create this amazing new life for myself and leave the other garbage behind, because I didn't want to take that truckload with me. I was like, thank you. And I let it go.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, bye. And then I took the rest with me. And then I've spent years, I love speaking on domestic violence awareness because I love when someone's like, oh my gosh, you're a domestic violence survivor. And I sure am. But I also feel like I've turned another corner by taking what I wanted to be able to talk about Rick in a positive way and think of the good things that I learned from him. And because everybody's got a story about him, I was going, it doesn't matter what. As soon as they find out I was married to him, they've got some amazing story. Yeah, they've been watching him for years, and I just love it. And because he's fascinating. But what I took from Rick that I'm having a lot of fun with now is personal branding. I mean, that man started personal branding before it was even called personal branding.
Yeah.
He elevated, I've been in marketing for years, but WWE has done such an amazing job. But without those wrestlers and their own personas, it's that
really good at it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I remember when we were going through the divorce, if you Googled me, it was a hot mess. I was on everything you could possibly say bad about me. It was on the internet, and there's nothing I could have done about it. I tried to hire people, and because I was married to a celebrity, there's just no way out of it. And it took me probably 10 years to now you scroll down, and it's my speaking engagements, it's my coaching, it's my book, it's talking about personal branding. And then you get to Rick.
That's a flex. That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
And I thank him for that. And if it's that I was married to Rick to help elevate my book that's going to help women and men to empower them, then I have embraced that. Because for the longest time, I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I never told anybody. And now I'm like, yeah, I learned a lot, good and bad. And then what am I doing with my life with all of these lessons? And how am I inspiring others? And how am I serving?
I love that. Are there any other lessons you learned that you'd want to share beyond what I took notes and picked out of your book? There's so many. In there.
I think that, and I remember Ed Milet saying this, I listen to him a lot. We are best positioned to serve the woman we used to be. So I think that's all your questions kind of bring that full circle for me. In my book, if I can look back and help that woman I used to be, or women in my life, or even men in my life, from the lessons that I've learned, then man, that's what God put me here for. And he put me here to serve and share those stories. And I think that is our role. And you have done that so well. I've watched you do it.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. But we all have a story. I just happen to be married to a celebrity. Yeah. We all have a story to share, and our voices are changing the world.
Your voices matter for sure.
And I thank you for this opportunity in your podcast, because our voices are changing the world.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. So I have 4 more questions for you. Should probably not say a number, because then someone's gonna like count and be like, I was in 4, she forgot one or something. So how have you found forgiveness? What are some of the things that have helped you with your forgiveness journey?
You know, I'm not shy about talking about my Christianity and my beliefs, but God's helped me. My support system, therapy, couldn't have done it without that. That's for sure. The forgiveness wasn't about forgiving Rick was the easy part. It was forgiving me.
Yeah.
And that has taken years. And being able to, you know, look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you, Tiffany, and meaning it.
I love you. That's what the mug says.
I know, I love you. And I think that piece of the forgiveness is something so many of us struggle with. And it takes time and practice, and I work on it all the time.
Yeah.
Still.
I think that's a really important point, is that I don't think that ever stops. If you've been through something like you've been through, I feel like it was almost easier to be mean to yourself about it than to be kind and try to forgive yourself. So it's a constant, at least for me. I will still have some days where I'm like, I feel like I'm crazy and maybe it was my fault for things.
But still.
I'm like, what?
Right,
I thought I was past this.
I think that, you know, I call them my people, you know, bad little gremlins that I like quiet them down, but they come in and I'm like, shh, shh, shh. But I think that's a constant. We're human. And I think that's going to happen. And I think embracing that piece too, because though it's been, I don't even know how many years now, it's still, there's moments, even reading your questions and being here today, it's there's little pieces that come up. I'm like, whoa, I thought I dealt with that.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Okay, if you could say one thing to Rick now, what would it be? Why?
You know, I tried that. I forgive you. I called him when his son died because I love his kids, but his son died, and I called him to just tell him I was sorry. And I was in therapy. I was like, this is part of therapy. And it was like, I forgive you. And he came back with, well, I forgive you. And went through the whole litany. So what I would tell Rick now is thank you. Thank you for helping me be me. Because as bad as it was that good. And he is a huge part of my life.
That is very graceful, gracious, all the things.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
That's taken years, by the way.
I can only imagine getting to that point that's huge. It's huge. For anyone else in a similar relationship or situation, what advice can you give?
Get help. Don't do this alone. And you're not alone. I literally thought I was crazy. I thought that no one else was experiencing this. I had no idea. I wasn't even spanked as a child. I certainly wasn't talked to. Like, the emotional abuse that was happening to me, much less the physical abuse, I didn't tell anybody. Yeah. So I would say get help. You have people that love you. I know you do. And if you don't have that support system, there's places out there.
Resources
out there. You've got to. You can't do this alone. I could have never done it alone.
Yeah. I try not to tear up, but I totally agree. Without a support system, without those helping hands, I think you can't overcome these situations. You have to have those people and those things that can help you. But sometimes I think part of this with this toxic love, toxic people, whatever you want to call it, is they like to make you feel like you're completely isolated. It make you feel like no one's going to help you, no one's going to believe you. But if you're listening or watching this, we're telling you, don't believe that.
No.
You can get out. You will be okay. Not just okay, you're going to be great.
There's an amazing life.
Yeah.
So you're not alone. And I think that is one of the key things that we need to make sure we share. You're not alone.
Yeah.
There's an amazing life on the other side.
Yes. So how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect?
I love it. Thank you. TiffanyVandemark.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love that. And you can get my book, Inside the Ring, on Amazon.
So good. It's a must read. Well, thank you all for listening and watching this episode. Thank you again, Tiffany, for being on.
Thank you, Emily.
Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and all major streaming platforms so you never miss a new episode of Love Means Business. Also, make sure to follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes content and highlights. Remember, love is a powerful force that will impact your life in many different ways. Never let the bad overshadow the good. Keep loving, learning, and leveling up.
Love means business.
Yes, it does.